crazy times in World of Warcraft right now. Classic hardcore, which I've been playing over the last month. Soda Popping, our guild leader, just died as a level 60 warrior in a dungeon. It was completely his mistake. He peeked out in front of the main tank, drew proximity aggro, drew social aggro, and then went to berserker stance and took a lot of burst damage in a single moment. This was really shocking news to all of us. And to make matters worse, he has now made Tyler 1 the new guild leader, unironically for a week. So all complaints will go to Tyler 1, and Tyler 1 can make the rules as well for OnlyFangs during this 1 week, or at least until Soda Popping is level 60 again. This is pretty crazy news. But on that note, I've been thinking since yesterday, I've been wanting to do this thing where I basically warn myself and others about all the dumb ways to die. Because I've had a couple of close calls already. So I've made a list of 21 ways to die in World of Warcraft Classic Hardcore. And if I have forgotten any, let me know in the comments what ways to die that I missed out on. Because I covered a lot, but I'm sure there's more. Alright, let's begin. The first one, of course, is gravity. Gravity is such a dumb way to die, especially as a mage. Because I had so many ways not to die to gravity as a mage. You can blink and break the fall. You can slow fall. You can ice block. And then you can even cold snap and ice block again if you mistimed it. Ping makes things a little bit worse. But overall, dying to gravity is not only the most common way to die in hardcore, but it's also the stupidest way. Sliding down mountains that had a little bit of a steeper incline than you thought. That sinking feeling, the bone-crunching snap as you reach the bottom of the depth that you fell towards. It's not good. Gravity. Next one, there is... Oh, and all the elevator deaths as well in Undercity and Thunderbluff. Just stand in front of the elevator, and if the elevator is not arriving as you're there, if it's already there when you get there, don't take it. You will fall to your death, and it happens every day. And it's so funny and so sad at the same time. Even happened to some of my guildmates. Dungeon overpulling. This is actually how I lost my level 56 mage. We were fighting one group of mobs. 2 to 3 more woke up from the high ground because of a proximity pull by the tank. And then we could have handled it, but we didn't. Overall, though, overpulls can lead to a kind of panic and misclicking of buttons. And because it's hardcore, and this is my first time playing World of Warcraft, I don't get to learn from my mistakes through the trial and error that I'm used to in RTS games. In an RTS game, if I die in 15 minutes game, I will learn from it, and then I'll do it again. And then I'll lose another 10 times, and then the 11th time, I've got the muscle memory to do things right. No such thing in WoW Classic. I am waiting for 200 hours to press one button that I will normally otherwise never press. And somehow I need to be imbued with that muscle memory, which I don't have. So that's the weird thing about playing hardcore right away instead of softcore. But it gives meaning as well, and it's very exciting. But definitely possible to die to an overpull. Third one, you meet a dungeon boss that has some kind of CC mechanic. This is a knowledge gap. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, well, you don't know. Maybe the boss is programmed to reset aggro at 66%. Or it's programmed to sleep the main tank, the one that has the highest threat on it, and then go to the next. If you're not aware about this, the boss may just one tap one of the party members to death immediately. So knowledge and preparation is incredibly key here. Fourth one, surprising adds. This could be an elite mob, it could be a boss, it could be in a dungeon or on the overworld map. But if you think that you've accurately assess the situation and you understand the threat and you are not aware of this enemy because you've never faced it before and you don't have a Twitch chat to warn you, and it suddenly summons additional mobs from out of nowhere that can absolutely take you out. One of them was the mage quest in Undercity where you fight several Voidwalkers, and I was very prepared for that, which is why it wasn't dangerous. But I've seen people die to the Voidwalkers in Undercity because they didn't expect 3 to 4 Voidwalkers suddenly to appear in Undercity and to basically run them to death into the Green River. Hyperspawning area. So hyperspawning is where there is a programmed necessity for a certain amount of mobs to exist, or they call it dynamic spawn, I think. There could be a certain area like a farmstead in Hillsbrad Foothills where there always needs to be a minimum amount of mobs. So every time one of the players on that layer, on that server, kills one of the mobs, it will automatically create another one. It will summon it elsewhere or in the same place. It's kind of semi-random, but there needs to be a minimum amount of mobs. So a hyperspawn area that either has a lot of spawns because there's a lot of players and it spawns mobs in response to a lot of players' presence, or because it needs to produce a certain amount of mobs due to dynamic spawning, is very dangerous, because you could be fighting 1, 2, 3, 4 enemies and then suddenly there's 5, 6, 7 or 8. Harpies are also very dangerous because they have an execute ability. Silithids create adds as well, the little 1 HP spawners, and suddenly you can quickly get overwhelmed, and not every class can get away from that very well, especially if you don't have a potion of petrification, a speed potion or invisibility potion. Then there's some scary patrols. Now, of course, unfortunately, there are add-ons that warn you the moment that you are able to target one of these mobs. They are in your 40-yard range. You see them, and then they warn you. I use it as well. It's kind of a cheat code in a way against these mobs, but I like to remind myself, and this might be a cope, that if I didn't have an add-on like this and I wanted to play it really, really safely, I would look it up on Thoughtbot or Wowhead, which patrols there are in a given area, and I would either avoid the area altogether, or I would make my own macro and then just spam it like F1, F1, F2, F2, F1, looking for the target mob name. And that would be possible, but it wouldn't be very fun gameplay, so I allow myself the concession of an elite unit scan mob, and almost everybody does. Like in softcore, I think, go have fun, carpe diem, die to the elite mob patrols. Son of Argal will get your ass in Silverpine. But in hardcore, I cannot afford to have my experience cut short like that for an easily preventable death. There are so many other dumb ways to die than needing to die to a scary patrol. PvP flags. Sometimes people try to tell you that you are PvP enabled, hoping maybe that you will turn on your PvP in an attempt to turn it off, like /PvP, I don't know. It could also be because you accidentally run into an Alliance PvP NPC guard, which will then flag you and keep your PvP status up for 5 minutes. You then need to find a Windrider Master so you can reset your PvP, but it's not that safe. It's not that easy. Luckily, I've never been PvP enabled, and I certainly don't intend to, Mr. Frodo. And you've got unstucking into the Alliance graveyard. We saw this from Miss Rage recently. She was in Arathi Highlands in apparently a quadrant of the map where if you ask Blizzard to use their unstuck service, it teleports you to the Alliance graveyard with 10 PvP NPC guards at the refugee point in the middle of Arathi Highlands. Why Blizzard coded it this way, I don't understand. Is it laziness? Is there some logic to it? But she was somewhere in the keep in the bottom left, and apparently if you unstuck from there, then Blizzard will say, "We have solved your stuck problem, you are now dead." As she spawned in, she immediately died to it. That feels really unfair to me and like stupid programming. Easily preventable, definitely not hardcore kosher and appropriate, but I guess this was made without hardcore in mind, and I guess recent Blizzard never bothered to make it more logical in how it works. So be careful with unstucking. Solo caves. Time and time again, my chat warns me not to go into a cave alone. I get overconfident. I say maybe I can just peek in a little bit, just check the beginning of the cave, but chat's always like, don't do caves alone, it's scary. And the few times where I ignored that advice, I've almost always been in grave danger and came scurrying and running out. Many people die in caves, it's scary. There are surprisingly difficult escort quests. It can begin really boring and easy. Maybe you're defending a flag somewhere in Ashenvale Forest against some satyrs, or maybe you're escorting a slow-moving, role-playing mob, which is an NPC, and you're protecting them from waves of attacks. But it's not just dangerous for yourself. If that escort quest apparently contains 3 to 5 mobs that will suddenly aggro you, and if you're alone, you could just die. It can even screw up other players that had nothing to do with the quest. Because sometimes the mobs are summoned fashionably far away so that they can roleplay run at you. So you're on the road with your escort quest, and then like 35 yards to your right, it will suddenly summon like 3 mobs. If someone was picking a flower there with practicing their herbalism skill and they had nothing to do with you, they will aggro on top of that player. So this is like one of the lamest ways to die. where it almost feels like you didn't even make any mistake of inattention. It just happened and you just were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I've seen this in clips, and I don't know that I will have any defense against this happening. It must be so shocking if you are somewhere and suddenly 3 centaurs are full surrounding you. Hopefully I'll have the presence of mind to press speed potion and that I'll actually have one. Next up, drowning. Number 11, drowning. When I started swimming first on my undead warlock, I was not aware of my breath bar at all. I was new to the game. There were so many things to think about and look at. So it usually took chat spamming at Grubby www for me to see in my peripheral vision a lot of exotic letters standing next to each other, and for me to realize, like, breathe, which, by the way, is also what you should shout to people when they fall off of a sailboat. You should shout obvious things like breathe and swim and survive and stuff. This is actually helping people that are in shock when you fall over the board in a sailboat. But anyway, drowning, big risk, more so if you're not undead. Now that I'm Tauren, pretty small breath bar. And then there's fatiguing. If you go out too far to sea, it starts the second yellow bar, which is fatigue. This is basically gonna kill you if you keep swimming there. And I actually was fatiguing a bit yesterday without noticing, and I noticed it when it was 80%. I was on a becoming a seal quest as a druid, and I was out far in Silverpine into the sea, and it was scary. I quickly found my bearings, but it was scary to get to that point. Makarad and duel. Makarad, I mean, I guess it's not really a dumb way to die. It's a way to die. I think it's dumb, but some people have fun with it. Makarad hardcore, duel to the death, lose your char. Sounds pretty good to you, not to me. But the duel, it's also really scary to me. It leaves you at 1 HP without the ability for the other player to kill you. But you can duel anywhere else in the world, including in the wilds. And if you're 1 HP and a mob spawns on top of you, you're gonna die. So that's pretty scary. And you could also walk through a campfire and die, or fall and trip and hurt your knee and die. So I don't want to duel at all. No PvP for me on hardcore. Fleeing enemies doing overpulls, of course, as well. If a humanoid or one of those plane striders in the Barrens reaches under 30 or 20% health, they are programmed to run for a period of time and then to return and attack you once again after a resting period. But they will pull everyone alongside of them that are nearby them in a proximity social aggro pool towards you. So runners, both in dungeons and in the overworld, are really risky, and you need to try and finish them off. And if you don't, you could bring down all hell on top of you. So I need to be very mindful for that as well. We've got 7 left. Number 15 is explosive sheeps. We've got some explosive sheeps in the northeast in the Barrens, where the Venture Co is operating. Seen some cool deaths there, taking you down from over half-life in a giant explosion. I don't actually know how to stop that. Do the sheeps have low health and you need to quickly auto-attack them before they explode? I don't know, or should you just run away? But I think there was an ensnare as well, or a stun. And then there's also exploding sheeps, I believe, in or mines in Gnomeregan. So that's pretty scary, and if you're not familiar with the threat and how to deal with it, that's death as well. Healing a random on the map is something I've been doing a lot recently. I've been enjoying it. The satisfaction of healing someone when they're low health and you know that you can save them, it's fantastic. But there's a giant but. You can draw aggro on yourself. So I hope that I will have the presence of mind that I'm not going to heal someone that is most likely only going to result in my own death instead. I would like to help people, but not to the degree that I lose my char again. That would be sad. Next up, forgetting a buff or having no mana. Starting pools with less than full mana or health can be really risky. This is how I also lost my warlock. I had no demon armor. This is absolutely why I died. One of the reasons why I died on my level 15 warlock. Forgetting buffs. Forgetting ice armor on mage would be equally deadly. And no doubt not having thorns could cost me a death to Silithids at some point, because the 1 HP mobs are no longer killing themselves on my non-existent now Thorns aura. Next up, the stun, silence, and immunity mobs. If you think you're gonna kill something, or stun it, or sleep it, and they resist, or they are generally immune to the thing you're trying to do, like undead being polymorph immune, you can make a misjudgment about threat assessment that could get you killed as well. If you AFK or alt tab, this is possibly one of the dumbest ways to die. Something I laugh about when other people do it. Blaming their TikTok ADHD adult brain, where they cannot be bothered to log out or go somewhere safe, and they alt tab and they watch a stream, or maybe they watch some clips, or they're ordering something or looking at energy drinks, and then they tap back in and they're dead. So funny when it's happening to someone else. Easy to blame them and call them dumb. Never gonna happen to me until it did. And I nearly died because I was looking at footage of my first death and I almost lost my mage. And I guess with enough time you can get complacent, but that's the last time I'm gonna do it. I'll never do this again. If you're gonna AFK or alt tab, log out and make sure you're safe. 20 disconnects. There's almost no defense against this. Double router with direct overlay into your second line with a special modem that has some kind of mechanic where it can switch to the second line when the first one disconnects. This can be a way against disconnect death. It's not 100% failsafe. Sometimes it will be an add-on that will kick you out of WoW, or something will crash on your PC. Fingers crossed, hasn't happened to me yet. Hopefully it won't, but there's almost no defense against it, except trying to log it back in as fast as possible. And then, maybe one of the greatest of all, overconfidence. All of these are big individual threats, but you can die in really dumb ways just because you're overconfident. You are rushing, you're not taking things seriously, you're not going in with proper buffs, with proper HP and regen. It's more of a psychological one than a mechanical one, like the other 20, but this is perhaps one of the greatest killers of all. And now that I've rehearsed all these, I hope that I can stay safe against all of these and make it to level 60 for the first raid with only fangs. Speaking of, that was planned for 18 January 2025, but because I and many others died, Soda moved it back. Then 1 or 2 days after he died himself. So now people are joking that the first raid will be in February maybe, or March, or June. I don't know. Let's just get back on the horse, get to level 60, enjoy this wonderful journey, and see when the first raid is going to be. Hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know in the comments how you think I am going to be dying on this character, or will I reach level 60 and go to Molten Core? Let me know. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.